Welcome to Coffee with Kay, where we're going to make sure the coffee is always served strong, but it's also going to come with a side of truth, and that's truth with a capital T. The truth of God, that is. I'm here to equip and encourage you, Saint. Yep, that's right, you. And if you're not familiar with the sainthood, I want to teach you what it is, and I want to invite you to the family. So, let's get right into it.
Monday, happy days. Tuesday, Wednesday, happy days. Thursday, Friday, happy days. The weekend comes, my cycle hums, ready to race for you. Monday, happy days. Tuesday, happy days. Monday, happy days. Tuesday, happy days.
Hey y'all, welcome back to episode 4, season 3, Coffee with Kay podcast. We are talking all about motherhood, all different types of topics. Last week's was about fitness, and this week is about date night. So I have a really special guest today. Some of y'all probably know who she is, but I am going to go and let her introduce herself. So hello, guest.
Hello. Hey, thanks for having me on.
You're welcome. So if you guys do not recognize that voice, this is Abbie Halberstadt, or you might know her better as M is for Mama. So if you didn't realize, we both live in East Texas. We're both fellow East Texas bloggers, and I'm so excited to get to have her on today. She is, out of all people, the person to talk about motherhood. So we're really hoping you guys will enjoy this special talk today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on here. Yeah, well, it's funny because, when you have 10 kids, people think of you as an expert, but really motherhood is kind of a process no matter how many kids you have. You're always learning new tricks of the trade. You're always finding out things about yourself that you didn't realize, because motherhood is such a magnifying glass at the sin in your life and the things that you need to work on. And the Lord is really faithful to reveal those things no matter what number of kids you have. So yeah, I enjoy being a mama, but even just this morning, we had some craziness with toddlers, and I was like, I am ready for nap time. So I can definitely relate to younger moms feeling that way too.
Yes. Oh, man. And I just love getting to start that authentically off the bat. For any of you guys who follow me on Instagram, follow my blog, I've been on a very mysterious trip away with our family. I haven't disclosed the location yet on the podcast, but I had this huge epiphany that I shared, how you can even be in literal paradise in the tropics, and your kids will still find a way to bring up animosity in you. There will still be tensions between you and your spouse. You will still get sick. Life will still happen. As Abbie and I went through 5 minutes ago, your technology will still crash. Life goes on. And hopefully you guys have picked up that I don't want to normalize that, but I think it just helps so much to speak it out and to put it on the table and recognize that is just life. Everybody goes through it. Everybody has similar ups and downs and roller coasters, and you're not the exception. If you're,
Not at all.
those things. So I just appreciate that you mentioned that, because it just really gets us all on equal ground of we're here, we're listening to a podcast, we're just taking a moment to just be human and connect and seek the Lord through our humanness. So this topic that we are sharing about today is date night. If you guys follow Abbie on her Instagram, Thursdays, as she's shared in her book too, she and her husband get to have date nights. And I thought, what better way to branch on the topic of motherhood than talking about something that most of us have in common, is our relationships with our spouses and how we can strengthen those, because it takes two to bring these little kiddos into the world, and having that close-knit relationship with a spouse is so important, I think, to a motherhood journey. So Abbie, can you, if you haven't heard, I'm going to let her tell y'all more about her date night and, just what she shares on social media or even hasn't shared.
Yeah. So, like you mentioned, Thursday, which today is Thursday, and I am also very much so looking forward to date night. Um, Last night, so much so that last night when Sean and I we do a prayer time right before we go to sleep when we're in bed, and right after prayer time, I said, "Okay, I'm starving. What are we having for dinner tomorrow? Where are we going for date night?" So we already picked where we're going because I was craving certain appetizers. So we really really look forward to it. But and a lot of people are really surprised that as parents of 10 children, we can make time for that. That we choose to prioritize that. I get a lot of feedback from people that either think that date night is awesome, or some people that really feel like it's not their jam and feel like it's kind of frivolous and that they don't need it to enhance their marital relationship, which is fine. I think that you could even substitute the phrase time of focused connection for a date
Mhm.
night. So when we hear date night, we picture putting on nice clothes, maybe wearing heels and some lipstick and fixing our hair and some perfume and, going out for a time where you just have this uninterrupted moment of connection with your spouse. And all of this can be great, but I think that dates can look very different depending on your circumstances in life. And ours have morphed quite a bit over the years. So these days, with teenagers in the house who are more than happy to help out with our younger children for a little while before they go to bed, because we usually head out around 5:30, and then our youngest children, our youngest three, who are the most work for sure, go to bed around 7:30. So they really only have them for about 2 hours each week, and then they actually get free time to watch a movie, to make a treat. They kind of look forward to it as much as we do. In fact, some weeks we've been like, "Oh, we're a little too busy," or they're like, go on date night," because they view it as something to look forward to each week together as siblings to do, because we don't do just tons of screen time, so that they can watch a movie or that they can play games together. They look forward to that. So in the past, before we had older children that could allow us to actually leave the house and do the whole high heels and lipstick thing, although my husband prefers it when I wear a sweatshirt and jeans, so I don't necessarily always do that. We would do date night at home. And we did that before we had kids. We had a kid 1 year into, a little less than 1 year into our marriage. So we
Wow.
have almost always had babies throughout our 17 and a half years of marriage. But we would set aside Thursday nights, and usually it was takeout or something easy like a charcuterie board or, some just snacky type food. And we would hang out on the couch and watch a show or chat or do some sort of silly couples quiz, from the internet, or play a game together, and just that decompression and that putting all other things aside. I know lots of people use date night for an opportunity to do vision casting or budgeting or whatever, and that's fine. That's great. If that's how you roll, that's awesome. For us, we're so on all week with everything we have going on, and we both have a lot of plates spinning at all time in addition to lots of kids. But we do so much of it together, but it's also it's very, what's the right word for it? It's very collaborative, but it's not romantic. It's not necessarily relaxed, And so date night for us is where we're saying, you know what? Maybe we're going to talk about what's going on with the kids. Maybe we're going to talk about a project we have going on or a t-shirt launch that we just did, but probably we're going to just make this as chill and enjoyable as possible, and a time for it to be refreshment and refilling our cups as a couple. And again, I know people that their date night looks like coffee together on the front porch. So it's not even at night and it's not technically a date, but they make that priority to say, we're going to put on a show for the kids and we're going to go out on the front porch and we're going to meet for 30 minutes. And maybe that's what we've got, or we do it twice a week. Or some people, will go for a picnic and have their kids run around, because we have never really paid for babysitting very much. We didn't have a lot of access to people that we really, really trusted to come to our house. Now, I have a really nice mom and dad, but my mom has kept my kids a lot, but Thursday nights weren't the night that she would have usually kept kids. So, so making that a priority at home made it really fun to look forward to. I teach fitness classes, and I used to teach a fitness class on Thursday afternoons, and then I would pick up like Thai food on the way home. And one thing that I would always do, because people are like, I don't know how to make that happen. That feels stressful. It didn't feel stressful to me because it felt worth it to put the effort into. But so I would literally plan ahead for dinner for the little kids. I would plan, I say the little kids, most of my kids were all little at that point. But at this point, I have three sections, the middle kids, the little kids, and the big kids. And so for my very young children, I would be planning for them to go to bed 30 minutes to an hour earlier than usual so that we could actually, have that focused time. And so I would even wake them up earlier than usual on Thursday, shift their nap time. I mean, I was committed to making this happen because it really did not only give us something just to really anticipate with a lot of, joy, but also to kind of this big sigh of coming out of it, that we've had that connection. And then we have another one coming next week. And we didn't do it every single week, but pretty close.
Yes. I've never had this realization until this very moment, not to put it on the same level as Sabbath, but just thinking about celebrating the Sabbath is always that enjoying momentous day of the week where you get to meet with the Lord and fellowship and do your favorite things and rest, not work, and reconnect and kind of recalibrate. And I kind of feel like sometimes date night can be that, not another Sabbath, but as Christians, we honor the Lord, we serve our God first. And if you're married, your husband, your marriage is kind of the next level down of importance in your life. And not like you said, you don't have to do it weekly, that doesn't always happen, but when you get to have that time together, that it is just a sigh, a relief, enjoyable, something fun, something reconnecting. And, I feel like the closer I get to my husband, the closer and steadier my relationship with the Lord tends to be, of us being able to be on the same track together, or having date night where I can usually it's lighthearted. We're not usually talking about anything hard and heavy. But if something does come up where I'm having a really hard time, where I can have that peace and privacy just with my spouse to be okay, I'm really struggling. Can we please talk about this? We have some time, we have some space where he can help me with something that's going on, whether it's good or bad. And so I just kind of think that I wonder if people in early century, Christianity, if they got to do that with their spouses. It just makes me so curious. That is such an intentional thing that you do even before you're married, where you have to intentionally date somebody to get to know them and figure out what you like, and how much I appreciate that even as a wife now too, where it's please continue dating me, please keep getting to know me and hang out with me and have fun. So I'm just always curious now. I guess I'll find this out in heaven, if God kind of had a little plan in place when he set up that pattern in our human lives. I guess we'll just have to see.
We will. I picture people of old walking through the wheat field together holding hands. That was their date.
Oh, yeah, right. I don't know, pressing grapes or getting water at the well. I know the woman got the water from the well, but who knew? Maybe they would go for late night well walks. I don't know.
Maybe.
That sounds enjoyable to me. Oh man. This is a random question. Do you remember what y'all's first date was after having children?
Probably. Oh, yeah, I do, because it was our anniversary. So,
Sweet.
we had Ezra, our first, on May 24th, 2006, and we celebrated our first anniversary dinner on June 2nd, 2006. So,
Wow.
yeah, I do actually. That's what that would have been. We definitely wouldn't have gone anywhere before that or done much of anything between having him, I think, 8 days earlier and that. So,
Oh, wow. That's so sweet. Yeah, I also, talking with you, just recalled our first date after our first baby, because I was first kiddo, not leaving them behind. I wasn't ready for a babysitter. I guess my mom probably couldn't come. At the time, we lived a lot closer to her. And so we we took him. Actually, I do. No, somebody did. My best friend at the time came and babysat with her husband. So we did have somebody come. And we went out. We lived in Denton at the time. So we went to the town square because that's where we had our very first date. And I think we had like a bottle of wine that we'd been saving from a special trip from Mount Vernon, actually, I think was what it was from.
Oh, very cool.
And some like a little charcuterie board on the square for about an hour. And then we went home because I was so exhausted.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
think our son was
You're
like
worn
3
out for
weeks
sure.
old.
Hey, Coffee with Kay listener. Thank you so much for supporting my podcast. I know this is new, commercials, but I just want to tell you, anytime you listen to one of these commercials and shop through my affiliate link, not only does it keep this podcast running, it also goes back to supporting my family just a little bit. So I just want to say, thank you for listening, thank you for your time, and thanks for clicking on those ads.
And I think that's something a great topic kind of to branch on, of having the flexibility in date night, and like a good expectation, because in my experience, like our date nights do not look the same post children as they did pre children. And I think sometimes it's easy to feel resentful for that, where like there doesn't need to be any resentment if I think you kind of come in prepared of like dating is going to look different before we had kids to now, and like letting that be a blessing, like a moment of gratitude versus feeling like a burden. Do you have any thoughts about that?
Well, I think there are also different seasons in our marriages. So we have gotten, like I said, to the point that we are kind of full circle back to the ability to go out by ourselves. And I don't take that for granted at all, because even when we've had older kids that could be able to babysit, if we have small babies, we bring them with us. So, we had our youngest 2, who are now 2, with us on date night until they were probably at least a year old, so we had 2 babies with us each time we would go out. So that first moment where you kind of walk out of the house with no children with you, and they might have even been like 14 or 15 months before we stopped taking them with us, is so freeing. So I feel like, from my perspective, of having all of the ages that I do, that I would just encourage younger moms who are seeing their date night routine shift, that they'll shift back. Like there will be seasons where you will, like I said, walk out of the house for the first time with no kids in forever and be like, this just feels unreal, because I have gotten so in the mode of being needed, even when it's date night or whatever. And it increases your appreciation for it. It increases your gratitude. It helps you to understand just how precious that time is when it is fleeting, or when it is quote unquote interrupted, or you have to modify. So I just really encourage people to try not to fight too hard against the stage that they're in. There is, because people, when they say, well, I can't pay for a babysitter anymore, and so we can't go out anymore. And I I'm nursing, so I can't find any dresses that I like, or, my hormones have changed and I'm allergic to the perfume I used to wear. And I don't feel as pretty or as feminine, and it's not as sexy, and it's not as, flirty. And that's it. All of those may be true, but that's also looking at it in the worst possible light.
Right.
So I'm always encouraging people to say, what is sweet about this season that I'm in? What is the Lord offering me that I can glean from this? So in our years of date nights at home, I think one of the things that I enjoyed the most, that was completely different than how we were when we were dating before we were married, is we had complete freedom to do anything we wanted on that couch, if you know what I mean. And we did not have sex till we got married. So we didn't have that. I mean, that's a way the date night was completely different in
Right.
such a good way with
Yes.
benefits. And so no, I didn't get dressed up. We didn't go out. We weren't completely free of kids. We didn't have a babysitter available, but we were able to partake of certain things that we couldn't before we were married. And
Yeah.
so that was part of date night for us. Not every week, but just making out on the couch, having fun. So I feel like your perspective matters so much.
Yes.
Like whether you're looking for the things that motherhood or parenthood has taken away from you, or whether you're looking for the ways that it has enhanced your relationship with your husband and changed it, but not in a bad way, just in a
Yes.
different way.
Absolutely. And I think something that has been an encouragement to me, I know for some people it's like, oh, please stop telling me this. But when I have older women in my life who remind me, like, one day they're not, like, it's not going to be like this. Like, one day your kids are going to be grown up and, like, you're not going to have a babysitter, or, like, you're not going to have a baby to come home to after date night. Like, you can do whatever you want, have date night every night if you want. And so just like taking advantage of the season that you have, like, fully as it is. And yeah, like, not like I hope for if my kid when my kids get older, like, honestly, I love them being little. It's so tiring,
Mm-hmm.
it's so exhausting, but like it's so cute. It's so cute. And I can't even think about them being like 20 or 30. I'll cry. But so I do love when women have told me, like, just enjoy it. I know it's hard. I know you're tired, but go out, like, take advantage. And it always kind of cracks me up. But yeah, that is another thing, being tired on date night. And so, like you said, having the freedom to let date night look like whatever you want it to be, um, and not, cutting it out completely because of the season you're in, whether it's financial, whether it's, kids or no kids or whatever. Um, so, what has been one of your favorite date nights that you guys have gone out on?
There's probably lots more that could come to mind, but what immediately popped into my head was during COVID when everything was shut down. And you could pick up food, but you couldn't eat in restaurants. And I was pregnant with Titus and Toby, our 2-year-old twins. And we got food from somewhere. I don't even remember the food particularly, but we took it out to a park and we sat on a bench and looked out over the pond and just talked and walked through the woods and enjoyed our food, ate with our fingers, kind of like a picnic. And that's probably not something that we would have done if we weren't forced to go. I mean, it's not something that we choose to do now that restaurants are open, because just the convenience of being able to
Right.
sit down and have your forks and plates and napkins all in front of you. But it was just really enjoyable, and it was so different than what we were normally doing. So that's probably not my favorite date night ever by any stretch, but it just immediately pops to mind as something that was by necessity unique and creative for us, and it was really fun.
That's so sweet. That's so cool. And I feel like that just goes to show again how, like, it doesn't have to be extravagant. You don't have to
Oh,
put on. There's been nights I really do try and, like, glam up a little bit for for date night, not just being in, like, biker shorts and t-shirt like usual. But yeah, there are some nights that I don't make the lipstick doesn't make it on, and it's
yeah.
okay. And like those chill, like, sweet nights are truly some of my most memorable nights of just getting to come as we are and enjoy our time together. So I know that you've got to go. I'm so glad that you got to come visit Coffee with Kay. I'm so sorry we had to cut it short today. But for our listeners who may not be familiar with your blog, where can they find you?
So I have a blog called emmasformama.net. You can find it by emmasformama.com too. I also microblog over at Instagram at m.is.for.mama. And then I'm also on Facebook with Image for Mama is the same title. I'm launching a podcast next week, which you can find on my blog. So you'll be able to find me there as well. And if you want to go to my blog and sign up for my newsletter, I send out meal plans, which people really enjoy, not having to think about what they're making for dinner that week. So that's another way you can connect with me.
Fantastic. Yes. And I get your newsletter, and you also have some awesome meal plan ideas on it. So just so y'all know, like, she is not lying. They are so helpful. Well, I'm going to let you go, Abbie. Thank you so much for coming to hang out with me on my podcast today. And I hope we can hang out and do this again soon.
Sounds good. Thanks.
Okay. I had to let Abbie go a little sooner than normal on today's episode, but I just wanted to conclude here solo, sharing a little bit more about date night and why I think it's special that us moms partake in it with our spouses, fiancés, boyfriends. It is so easy to let motherhood become your all encompassing, complete identity, which is good. We have to embrace our motherhood journeys, but we also have to remember, like, our identity is rooted in Christ. So I feel like sometimes date night really draws me out of that world and kind of puts me back in the real world with everybody else just for a moment in time, especially with my spouse, getting to reconnect on an adult level, doing a fun adult activity, whether it's in the house or out of the house. It's very easy to idolize motherhood and to get super wrapped up in it when, yes, our children are a huge ministry to us. They are little people in our lives that we should be devoted to and taking care of and teaching and equipping with real world things as well as spiritual matters. But also remembering, like, there is still more to life than our motherhood journeys. And for me personally, date night is one of those things that reminds me about the rest of the world, the rest of life going on around me. And so one of my most memorable dates that I've gotten to take with my husband, I think also was in late 2020, after things had reopened, like from the shutdowns from COVID. And my husband planned a special date. And I think it was so special because it was so spontaneous and, like, so unlike anything we've ever done. But I remember him calling me that day and saying, hey, like, we're going on a date tonight. Be ready at whatever time and wear something nice. And that has never happened before. And so I know I was probably deep in mom mode. And I was immediately like, oh, yes, what is going on? This is going to be so fun. I'm going to plan out my outfit. I'm going to, get the kids ready, make sure they're clean. Like Abbie was saying, I was going to make sure everything happened for me to be ready at, I'll just say 5 o'clock on the dot. So he picks me up right when he says he's going to pick me up. We had some friends that were babysitting for us, which was also a surprise because I think at the time we didn't have a regular babysitter. And so date nights kind of could happen whenever his parents were available, my in-laws, or like my mentor. Because I think at the time we were also pursuing debt freedom and our date budget was very, very tight. So this was not something we did ever, if at all. And it super caught me off guard in a spectacular way. So yeah, he picks me up. I'm dressed to the nines, had on lipstick that night, I do remember. And he tells me where we're going. He's taking me to a steakhouse. I was like, what? We can't afford a steakhouse. We've never been to a steakhouse. I had never been to a steakhouse, let alone us together. And like I said, we were in the thick of our debt freedom journey. So I was like, what is going on? And so he tells me, I've got really great news for you. This is why we're doing something special. This is why we're here. This is why we're at this fancy steakhouse. Like, I wanted this to be something that stuck in your mind. That was, kind of an Ebenezer milestone. So it turns out that our new company our contracting company had landed a very, very good project that was really big, really important, and essentially the profit for it would clear the rest of our debt. So as of that night, he was waiting for me to sit at the table at the steakhouse with him, and he opened up his phone and paid off our debt, and that was the end of our debt freedom journey. And I just was like, I just remember I was so astounded. I was so surprised. In that dinner, oh, it tasted so good. And Dave Ramsey always says how, once debt is out of your life, things change, things taste better, things look better, things feel better. Your house is so much more comfortable because, you don't have anything looming over your head. And that advice is so true. So that was just kind of a fun little story time of our favorite date that we've had thus far. So to wrap up this episode, y'all, I really hope I can do a part 2 of date night, or a part 2 of connecting with your spouse in your motherhood journey, because having that balance, having that spouse do this journey with you, it makes such a big difference. While all aspects of marriage and motherhood are difficult, I can honestly say I could not do this without my husband. I couldn't. Even though, we clash because our parenting styles are different and we're battling sin on all fronts because we're all human. Having my spouse in this journey with me has made me a better mother. Having him there to call me out if I'm doing something that, is not effective or not helpful, or praise me for noticing when I'm doing something that is helpful for the family and for the children. It changes my path to motherhood. It paves my path in so many different ways where I have the opportunity to choose to either go left or right. And sometimes going the right way is, following the straight and narrow, and going left is getting off of the path. And I have that extra accountability to remind me to go right, to pursue holiness, pursue the Lord in this journey. So all that say, I really couldn't do it without him. And getting to have those nights or days when we can reconnect, whether it's for 30 minutes or 2.5 hours, Lord willing, please let us have a 2.5 hour date night. There's nothing that refreshes our palate more than that, of just getting to unwind, like Abbie said, and decompress and just enjoy time together for a moment. So for more ideas on date night, check out Abbie's microblog on Instagram. Sometimes she posts what she and her husband are doing on Thursdays. In her book, Emma's for Mama, she has a chapter about date night. And if you guys really enjoyed this, I would be so, so happy to come up with some fun ideas on a budget, not on a budget, that you could do on date nights and put it on my blog, put it on my Instagram. So look out for that, because I sense a blog post coming up about date night. I got a lot of thoughts. Follow me on Pinterest. I have a board of my favorite clothes, my styles, things that I actually go and look for to replicate for said date nights. Because let's face it, most of my days are spent in leggings and a t-shirt. Nothing glamorous. Getting my glam on, honestly, is super fun to me. So follow me on Pinterest, because I even have some ideas there. And I am thinking in about 20 minutes, there's going to be a new Pinterest page up about date night. So find me there. Let's have some fun. And I super look forward to connecting with you guys about date night ideas. So until next time, y'all take care.
There's nothing can hold me when I hold you. Goodbye, gray sky, hello blue. There's nothing can hold me. There's nothing can hold me. Goodbye, gray sky, hello blue. There's nothing can hold me when I hold you. Goodbye, gray sky, hello blue.